Beautiful Boy has to be one of the most frustrating Oscar bait films I have seen in a long time. It is directed by Felix van Groningen and stars Steve Carell and Timothy Chalamet as the real-life father and son David and Nick Sheff respectively. The film is about the struggles of Nick Sheff and his battle with addiction and how his father David is doing all he can to try and help, but he is trying a little too hard. The film had a fantastic opportunity to show how damaging an addiction can be, not only to the user, but how it affects those closest to them. Unfortunately, this film failed in its quest to garner sympathy. Now, positive-wise, from the family aspect on how it affects them, that brings some of the more impactful scenes. Nick's two step-siblings are constantly affected by this, as they love Nick to pieces, and whenever he lets the family down and relapses, their sense of disappointment is felt the most. Some very good performances from these child actors. Also, the character development of David Sheff is perfect. You see a man who is trying to relate and sympathise with his son, and he always tries to keep calm in these disappointing situations. But as the film progresses, you can see how much harder it is becoming for him to keep that care going, as he clearly looks defeated and drained, to the point where you can feel the dilemma he is in. The exchanges between David and Nick are tense, and whilst a lot of it is frustrating, the conversations do feel real. Also, I do really like that they brought out a film that focuses on this epidemic, as the only films I can really think of that focus on addiction messing people's lives up are Trainspotting and Leaving Las Vegas. Every other film just has users as plot devices, so this film focusing on someone spiraling into addiction was interesting. However, this is a structural mess of a movie, with the first half jumping back and forth through time with no real sense of transition or smoothness, as there are some huge time jumps that are very jarring. I feel the film would have benefited from going in chronological order, because the tragedy of the close bond would have felt more real had we been shown those flashbacks for the first 20 minutes in a up-style short film, then depict what actually drives Nick to use the hard stuff and see that spiral begin. Starting in the addiction phase not only ruins the concept of a father-son bond that the trailers are heavily using to market this, but it also prevents us from understanding Nick and his reasons for using, and that becomes more irritating as the film goes on. I don't want to rip into this character too much, as this is a real person it is based off, but I feel absolutely no sympathy for Nick Shepp at all. Every time he is nice to his dad, even before the using begins, it feels really forced, and just the constant spiraling and relapsing becomes really tiresome in a 2-hour movie. He comes across as a whiny, selfish person. So when I see the text at the end saying what's happening to him now, I was very surprised, but I was also not bothered. He treats his family terrible, and even the girlfriend he gets, he treats her like absolute garbage. I do not sympathise with him. Yes, I wanted him to get better because addiction is a terrible thing, but when the film repeats the same plot 3 or 4 times, it becomes quite tiresome. Quite simply, the plot is addiction, dad tries to help, dad and son fight, son goes away for a while, he gets clean, comes home, relapses, then repeat 4 times over. That is the cycle of this film, and after the second time I just ended up hating that character, as he just relapses out of the blue. 1 minute he is with his family and saying how proud he is that he got clean and thanking everyone for their support, then 2 minutes later he thinks, you know what, I want to party. It boggles the mind, and the film does not help itself with the use of soundtrack. There's one bit where he relapses and does heroin with his girlfriend, and they get in the shower together and have a bit of a, nookie scene together. And rather than have the soundtrack reflect the tragedy of this relapse, it is played like a sweet romantic scene, completely defeating how big a deal this relapse is. And there are sometimes with music that they are clearly trying to stir the emotional response, but it is a case of let these performances speak for themselves. The film feels like it should have ended 3 times, and when a film is only about 40 minutes in and it feels like it's wrapping up, you know you have a problem. This would have worked better as a short film, because at times I felt held hostage by its runtime. Performances have to be one of the few saving graces for this film. Steve Carell is as always fantastic in this dramatic role. Ever since that performance in The Big Short, I have always made sure to see his dramatic appearances, and he continues to impress exponentially. Timothée Chalamet has been nominated for a Golden Globe for this performance. Now granted, he really sells the terrible effects the drugs have on him, and these are very hard to act out, but I don't feel it's Golden Globe worthy. He does a good job, but about 80% of this performance is him trembling and being awkward, it seems. I would be very surprised if he won the award. Maura Tierney plays Nick's stepmother Karen, and while she doesn't get to shine much, there is one scene where she is given to perform and she absolutely nails her emoting in it, and it's one of the few scenes that are well to put together. Oakley Bull and Christian Convery are the two younger siblings in this, and it's great to have kids on the screen actually feel like kids and not kids trying to act. So I was very pleased with their performance. Overall, Beautiful Boy is Oscar bait and a missed opportunity, filled with a number of solid performances that lacked a smooth timeline. I don't feel I will watch this again. There is just too much they did wrong here, and whilst I am probably in the minority here, the film did very little for me in terms of spreading the awareness. Beautiful Boy is just lukewarm tea. So, Beautiful Boy, have you all seen it? If you have, let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Hit the round subscribe button for more reviews coming all the time. And this is the Spike Podcast signing off.